Welcome to The Aging Adventure, brought to you by the caring professionals at The Legacy with 4 state-of-the-art communities in our city: The Legacy, Legacy Terrace, Legacy Estates, and Legacy Arbors. I'm Dale Johnson. Welcome in. I'm joined every Saturday morning by John Kopetsky of Legacy Terrace and longtime friend of Lincoln Seniors, Kathy Blythe. Good morning, both of you.
Morning.
Good morning, Dale.
We know him as Mr. BBB. Jim Hagerty with the Better Business Bureau joins us on The Aging Adventure this morning to talk about weather-related scams. That's coming up after Tracy Haefele, Life Enrichment Coordinator at Legacy Estates, steps in to talk with John and Kathy about finding purpose in life no matter what age.
So in your role as a Life Enrichment Coordinator at Legacy Estates, how have you seen the impact of working with older adults, the impact of a purpose-driven lifestyle? How does that play out?
Well, I think it plays out in many ways. It's funny that this is our topic today. I just saw a quote on social media. It was attributed to Pablo Picasso, and it said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away." And I just think that never stops. And when I look at our residents who volunteer or help other people, I see that a sense of pride. I see that having a purpose for them actually also manifests itself in physical ways. They feel better physically. They stand taller. They smile more. And I think that if nothing else, it also gives them an opportunity to not think about their own concerns for a little while. And I also think it's good for their mental awareness. It's good for us to plan and follow through with those plans, no matter what age. But it keeps us on a little bit of a schedule. And as we retire, I think that there's value in that as well. So volunteering or helping others won't necessarily add years to your life, although there are some studies that suggest that. It will at least make those years richer.
One thing I have noticed myself and also learned through you, Tracy, is that many of the people that are volunteering maybe have done that their whole lives. It's part of who they are. But you also make the point, and so do a lot of your residents, that it's never too late to start. We say that about a lot of things, but even if somebody's never been a volunteer until now, they still can get that same enrichment from reaching out to help others and lifting themselves up At the same time.
And it doesn't have to be organized volunteering. I think there's a difference between volunteering and helping people, and there's usually a little more acknowledgement with organized volunteering, but there's that personal fulfillment that just comes with helping other people. And I do see that on a daily basis when I see residents helping other residents and residents helping staff. We have many opportunities here. For example, we have residents that set up their own groups, such as bridge groups, bunco groups, Scrabble groups. We have residents that lead our Sunday evening church service. That's so popular. It's multi-denominational, but they offer it 2 or 3 times, depending on how many people want to come and what works for their schedule. So I think that is definitely a valuable thing.
I've heard more than one retired person over the years tell me that, it's important to have a reason to get up in the morning and to have that a little bit of routine at least. I mean, not that you want to tie yourself down with so many activities. You're working 40 or 50 hours a week in retirement. But have you seen that in the residents that you've interacted with? It gives them a reason to get going in the morning?
It gives them that reason to get up and to make plans. It also, there are just so many benefits. I'm having a hard time even getting them across. But I know I missed earlier that there is proof that most people say that it also makes them feel less sad. So it helps with depression rates, which we know loneliness sometimes can affect people who are on their own. So I think that's a real valuable thing. And it can be done volunteering can be done in groups or can be done in solo acts. So find what works for you, challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to learn something new. It's great to use the gifts that you already have, but it's also a great opportunity to learn a new skill or to be able to learn something and share it with someone else when you're volunteering. I know many of our residents are learning to knit so they can knit baby hats for the hospital. They're making plarn out of plastic bags, plastic yarn for someone to make mats for the homeless through that program here in town. We have residents who are learning or having children read to them at first grade at Zeman Elementary. And there are just so many opportunities that you can do within or without or outside of the walls that you're in.
Do you have a quick story you can share of a specific person doing a specific thing that might have been life-altering and motivational for all of us?
Well, I would say I do have one, and the reason it pops out is because it involves $108,000. We have a resident who helped other residents with all the Medicare changes, and in doing so, helping them choose the benefit that was going to be better for them. And she saved those residents over $108,000. And I don't remember how many residents it was, but it was a handful, but made a big difference in their lives. And she's still doing that today, trying to help people with that.
Thank you so much, Tracy Haefele. Hope to see you soon.
Oh, I hope so. Good to be here.
Coming up on the Aging Adventure, a conversation that turns to weather-related scams. The Aging Adventure continues, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Thank you for joining us on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. I'm Dale Johnson with John and Kathy. There can be a connection between storms and scams. John and Kathy, I have Jim Hagerty on the conversation with us. Jim is with the Better Business Bureau.
We always learn so much every time you are on with us, Jim. And this time we're talking, at least here in the beginning, about weather-related scams. We've had a lot of severe weather, unfortunately, in southeast Nebraska in recent weeks. Does that bring the crooks out?
Yeah, unfortunately, year after year. I mean, we live in the Midwest, so during the summertime, spring, and even into the fall, we'll see some catastrophic weather events: high winds, lots of rain, flooding, trees down, and it really seems over the last few weeks that's really piled up on us. We had kind of a catastrophic windstorm that came through a few weeks ago, took out lots and lots of trees, caused lots of damage to properties, cars. And then over this last weekend, again, tons of rain, lots of wind, lots of problems. So whenever homeowners experience damage like that, it puts them sort of behind the eight ball. They feel like they need to make some urgent decisions about who to use to handle their repairs. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad actors. We call them storm chasers. And these aren't the kind of storm chasers that are out trying to warn us that there's bad weather coming. These are actual individuals, in many cases, very bad actors that follow bad weather into communities that have been hit hard. They're typically the first ones to show up in your neighborhood, knocking on your door, claiming to be with a legitimate firm, able to make immediate repairs to your home. A lot of times they'll want large upfront payments. They won't be able to tell you a lot about the establishment. You'll notice in many cases they have out-of-town plates. And these are just not the kind of folks that you want to get engaged with, right? So what we would typically do is we would just tell people, if you've got damage, you need immediate repairs, get with your insurance company, do whatever is necessary to keep the weather from coming into your house. If you've got holes in your roof, tarp it up, whatever you need to do. But be cautious about who you select to make the repairs. There is an abundance of trustworthy, reliable contractors all over our service area that can assist people. But particularly when there's rough weather like this, you might have to get in line and you might have to have some patience, but it's worth it. The last thing that you want to do is get engaged with one of these bad actors. They'll ask you for a large upfront payment. Maybe they'll want you to pay them in cash. They'll make all sorts of promises, but I can guarantee you once they have your money, you're probably not going to see them coming back. Or if they do come back, they're going to be very challenging to work with. They're typically not local, so it's difficult for us to help you out from a consumer business dispute resolution perspective.
Jim, I know that the BBB has developed some resources specifically for consumers when there's a storm and how to go about finding the right contractor, finding someone trustworthy. Can you talk about that?
It's called our Rebuild with Trust program, and we created it specifically for this. So I guess the watchword here is that we understand that this is, a big deal, when you've got damage to your home, but patience is going to be required if you're going to get the repairs done properly.
We look for the BBB seal to see if somebody's a member of the Better Business Bureau. And I think there's some confusion about that because some people think that you can just buy your way into that designation, but it goes much deeper than that. And it's much more important than that. So would you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, well, if you think about that in our entire service area, which covers 4 states, we have 9,000 accredited businesses. So there's an awful lot more businesses than that, right?
Right.
So the application process for BBB accreditation is not an easy one. And it isn't like if you've got a checkbook and your business has been established for a few days, you can join the Better Business Bureau. You have to be in business for a full year, and that's minimum. And then when you do apply, the BBB is going to thoroughly check your company out. We're going to make sure that you're properly licensed, that you're bonded, that you have the proper licenses with all of the local municipalities that you're working in. We make sure that there's no history of unresolved issues or disputes either with the principal's names or with the company. So it's not like we just check the company name. We also do a search of the principals to make sure that they have not operated a business other than this at a different time that was problematic. So our vetting is extremely strict, and John can tell you, as an individual that sits on our board, sometimes the list of denials is very, very extensive. And so I think that, that's good news for the consuming public, that on a monthly basis, the BBB denies a pretty significant number of applications because they didn't meet our criteria. And it isn't always necessarily because there was a really significant problem with the individuals. It could be that they're lacking some licensing that they didn't know they needed. So the BBB acts as a consultant to them. We let them know, what they need to do to check all the boxes. And when they do that, they come back and we'll review the application again. So when you do business with a company that's been accredited by us, you can be assured they've been vetted, and they've also made a commitment to adhere to our code of business practices, and that they'll stand behind their products and their services and work with you if problems do occur. And unfortunately, sometimes even with the best companies, they do.
We're visiting today with Jim Hagerty of the Better Business Bureau. He has lots more to tell us, and we'll be right back in just a moment. You're listening to The Aging Adventure on KFOR, brought to you by the Legacy Retirement Communities.
You're listening to The Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities on KFOR. I'm Dale Johnson with John and Kathy. This morning, we're talking with Jim Hagerty of the Better Business Bureau.
Jim, I know COVID has obviously impacted everybody's lives tremendously over the last year and a half or so. Has it impacted the service industry, construction? I mean, are you getting complaints from people about things like that?
Yeah, we certainly are. And And a lot of times it's just because, jobs are not being completed during the time frame that was anticipated. And quite frankly, that is not necessarily the fault of the contractor. I mean, if you've been watching the news, it's very difficult to find new cars. There's a huge shortage in the chips that are needed to build the cars. So there's like a huge shortage. Lumber, supplies, the costs have gone through the roof, and huge delays in receiving deliveries of orders. So I think people really need to understand, particularly if you're considering a project. Let's say you're thinking about a remodeling project, whatever. It might be best to put that on the shelf for a bit, because we know right now that the cost of supplies is sort of through the roof, hopefully starting to come back down. And then just the demand for services has been so high during COVID. There's just a huge backlog. So I don't think I'm probably telling folks things that they don't know. But again, it's really important to be patient with your contractors at this point. As I said earlier to Kathy, the very best contractors with the very best records are facing the same kind of issues getting supplies. So it could be that there's just going to need to be a higher level of understanding between the consumer and the contractor, that we just need to sort of wait it out, and ultimately you're going to be taken care of.
Jim, we're hearing about older adults, shifting gears here, hearing about older adults who are becoming victims of tech support scams. And it would be great for you to enlighten us more on that, if you would.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is not going away. I mean, there's been a lot of great legislature in the last year or so around robocalls, and these calls that you get at your home from people claiming to be with Microsoft or some other vendor, claiming that they've detected an issue with your computer, and that because of that, they're going to need to get access to it so that they can assist you, identify the virus, and help you get things cleaned up so you can get back to business. And it all sounds super official, right? And so if you're not tuned into this scheme, and the caller ID says that it's Microsoft, right? Then you're inclined to believe that this is a legitimate call. Nobody's asking you for any money at this point. They're just asking you for access to your system. And so unfortunately, all too often, people provide the access to the system, right? And so you're allowing probably Nigerian crime gangs who are opposing, they're imposters claiming to be Microsoft. You've now allowed them access to your system. Then they hand you off to someone who can help clean up the virus that they've detected on your computer. So then they hand you off to a company that tells you that they'll be able to get it cleaned up for you, that they're a third-party contractor with Microsoft, and they can do this for $199. You can put it on any major credit card, or if you prefer, you can sign up for their 5-year guaranteed protection program, which would be a super deal at this point for $500. And way too often people fall for this. So they create the illusion that there's a problem on your computer that does not exist. You give them your credit card information. You think that it's only going to be $199 charge. And in many cases, that's all they do charge, but they haven't done anything for you. It's all an illusion. So Microsoft never makes these kind of calls. You're not going to get a call from Norton Antivirus. You're not going to get a call from Best Buy Geek Squad telling you that your computer protection plan is about to expire. And that's just a phishing expedition. They're calling hoping that you do have Norton Antivirus, or that you do have a protection contract with the Geek Squad. And in the end, the bottom line is that they want access to your computer, and in some cases, access to your bank accounts. And we have seen some huge losses with this. I mean, I recently had a woman here in our region call me up who had $7,000 taken out of her savings account without her permission or her knowledge. And once the money is gone, once the crime gangs have it, it's impossible for us to help. We cannot get it back.
We want people to remember bbb.org.
Absolutely. And we also want them to remember Scam Tracker. So, I mean, if you could just jot down the word BBB Scam Tracker. And if you do a Google search for that, it's going to take you to our BBB Scam Tracker site, and you can spend all kinds of time there. You can report suspicious activity there. So you can sort of become a part of our community patrol.
Thanks for the great good you do at the Better Business Bureau, Jim. It's always great to have you on our program.
Thank you very much, Jim. John, where do listeners go for more information about the legacy retirement communities?
You can call us at 402-436-3000 or visit our website, legacyretirement.com.
And Kathy, looking forward to next week's conversations. Have a good week. Join us every Saturday morning for the Aging Adventure, brought to you by The Legacy. I'm Dale Johnson.